Before we begin, I doubt you really care, but this film or this video was made with Windows Movie Maker, even though later on in the video I say that it was made with another program. This is because Windows Movie Maker or the other program is not working for me. I need to get the Express code or the activation code for the Express version, which allows me to export photos as an MP4 or videos as an MP4. It is currently 11 at night, and I've been working on this for a solid 4 hours, and I've decided to throw in the towel for tonight. Hello again, and thank you for tuning in. Oh, you're good. To another Tale from the Table. I'm your host, Philly Dips, and today, hopefully, this video will be uploaded without a hitch, and we won't have any problems with importation, editation, and uploadation of the clip. I'm your host, Philly Dips, and today we're going to be diving right back into the Chronicles of the Queen's Gambit, picking up where we left off. So you may recall last time on our show that the crew of the Queen's Gambit 2 had escaped prison through a daring, kind of ill-planned heist on a flying train, which took them pretty goddamn far. They were, hold on, I'll get you a map, one sec. So they were here, and they made it all the way down here to Tikaboo Island, which, as you may recall, is the homeland of two of our characters. Yes, two of our characters. It's the homeland of Chikaliku and of Enzio. This is the village that our first three heroes, Erjin, Enzio, and Chikaliku, disembarked and fled. So now they're coming back here because that was the closest scrap of land they could get to without, drowning. And maybe they'd have a chance there of survival. So their train crashes, big fiery explosion that the characters walk out of. Okay, it wasn't fiery. It was like, I don't know. It was magical. It wasn't like just a projectile flying. It was a magical train that was coming to a nice stop. And they are greeted by, not violently greeted by a militia of villagers who are terrified of this great metal shambling device that's fallen out of their sky. Because remember, this tribe has no contact with the outside world. They don't have steam power or trains or really like proper sailing vessels, actually. But so when something like this falls out of the sky on a normal day, it's pretty terrifying. So they have their spears and their bows at the ready to shoot anything that moves. The party's inside. They're all fine. They're all alive. And they're crushed inside the locomotive of the train. Without Chikaliku calls out hello, it's we come in peace, and they all come out with their hands up. And of course, Chikaliku and Enzio had killed all five of the village's peacekeepers. They're pretty much they're watchmen who kept look over the law when they had escaped from the island prison. And this was to no surprise, they were pretty upset with him. So some of them were about to shoot at him when the chief of the entire village, what was his name again? Okay, I don't remember his name. Sorry. But the chief comes out and says, okay, you guys have a handful of seconds to tell me why we shouldn't kill you right now. And they, within that seconds, they tell their entire story of, where they had gone and where they had ventured. And, and of course, of Shield, the mighty blue dragon who almost had them killed, and they came here seeking refuge. And the chief, he pondered this for a while, stroking his chin, and he he throws up his arm and says, "Welcome home, brothers." And to some controversy in the village, he welcomes them back and takes them in for a great feast that night. So they feast and they tell more of their tales to the villagers. It's a great fun of drinking and eating and just general buffoonery as they share tale of their exploits to these villagers who had never even seen further than the 5 kilometer horizon out beyond the island. And so they tell them all about these flying machines and these trains and these sailing ships and these great cannons and guns and pointy swords and brigades of military and people and stores and metal money. It wasn't just sand dollars. It was like metal, gold, and silver, and copper and platinum pieces as currency. And they're all astonished by this. That these people, that not only is their stuff out beyond the island, which that was just the only land on Earth, but they were civilized and more advanced than them. So this interests everybody. And the chief, at the end of the feast, he stands up and says, "Gentlemen," they're all, ladies and gentlemen, Iris, don't forget Iris, the lady, we want to help you on your journey. And help you to return back to the new world, to spread legend to Tiku Island and bring us back wealth and tools, machinery, anything you can get to help us to better our lives here on the island. They say all we need is a ship and we'll be out of your hair. We'll come back every now and then, bring wealth, tools, maybe workers, maybe tourists. Maybe there's our tourism industry on Tiku Island. And they say, okay, well, Cheetah Winging, who died, he was the only one who really knew about naval engineering. So it's going to be a group effort to build this ship. The entire village is going to have to pitch in, the party included. So they have a bit of a skill challenge. To assemble this ship. And they had all these plans to build the Queen's Gambit 2. And it was gonna be like a beautiful lavish ship with quarters and the cannons and all the whole 9 yards. But what they ended up with was a very small, shoddy vessel that probably wasn't going to last very long. But that was the best they could do with the resources, tools, and knowledge that they had of naval engineering. And days go by. Then days turn to weeks, and they spend a very long time on their own homeland, staying with the villagers as they build their ship in preparation for a journey back to the mainland. Now, they've already gone and betrayed the dwarves, so at this point, their only choice was to go somewhere else. They have three options. There are three other kingdoms you may remember. There's the humans, the elves, and the halflings. It's all very very racial in this campaign setting of mine, because everyone kind of sticks with their own kin. And they thought, well, they asked me, well, what's the second wealthiest nation? Well, that would be the humans. So they said, okay, let's make the trek. It should be easy. Now, something cool about the dwarves and the humans, who are at very high tensions right now, is that they actually have shared territory. They have a neutral city on an island. It's right in the middle of international waters. It's called Port Durack. It's neutral territory. It's like a customs office. You go there, you take your goods in your ship or your passengers, you check them in, you get visas, and then you go to the other side. But it's mostly for merchants, but it's also it's a town as well. People live there, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding this place. It's not a very nice place to live. It's definitely not corrupt, but like it's just it's kind of shady, and it's full of not nice places with not nice people in those places. So you can imagine, the disappear. It's like a city state almost. It's almost independently governed, the city state of Port Durack, but it's really not. It's technically under joint control, but with the high political tensions of dwarf country and human country, you can imagine, things get out of control. So it's more or less self-governed by the mayor of that town. So they say, okay, well, let's go there, and then, we don't want to illegally immigrate and, maybe get in trouble and get thrown in jail again. So let's go there, get our documents in order, maybe stay there for a while, and then head to human country, just so that people know that we're there and we can make a presence there. Because we don't want to be convicts again, because God forbid we get arrested as soon as we step foot on human soil. So eventually their ship is complete. It's shoddy, it's low quality, it's small, But this entire party that is now comprised of five, they go on and they take one of the villagers on as well, just helping it with rigging the mast and taking the helm and things like that. It is a grueling 1 week journey from Tikaboo Island to Port Durak because it's got a small sail. The ship first of all, there's a very small sail. They don't have a crew with them. It's just the 6 of them. 5 of them who didn't really do much of the sailing themselves, and a 6th guy who has no idea how a ship works. But they get along. There's no major incidents on the trip. And they arrive at this Port Durak. And like I said, it's small. It's a small island that is used mostly for merchants to immigrate, or just cross the border. It's a customs haven basically. And so they arrive there. They pay the fee to dock their ship. It's really not a ship. It's like a smaller than your average yacht. But they dock their vessel and they go ashore. And of course they have to speak to the customs officer, which they have bad experience with in the past. But they speak to the customs officer and they get everything sorted pretty peacefully. And now they're in the city. The city's actually it's like it has the style of a dwarven city, which is more advanced. Think like turn of the 19th century or 20th century, like steampunk, like steam age transitioning into diesel age. It's that kind of technology, but yet it's about split human and dwarf population. So you could say that the humans here live in better condition than they would back home in the human country, but again, it's mostly slums except for like a midtown. Now it is split. The island is split right in two. There's a canal that was dug right through for merchant ships to pass through instead of going around the island, so they can go through and have their cargo inspected as they go through. And it's kind of divided into two sort of like ethnic enclaves. On one side you have the humans, the other side you have the dwarves, being the majority of the population. So they spend a couple days as in the background they're filing their paperwork, like just trying to legally enter this country, but also they're just having fun. They go to bars, they talk to people, they just some side quests, and all the while they noticed that there was an issue going on in this town, an issue of the undead popping up, like zombies. They're just popping up everywhere around town. And they would crawl up through the sewers, or they would be found in someone's house where they used to live, and they open the door and they would come out and just gnaw the person to death. And it's been more and more frequent, and the cases seem to be connected to some of the side quests that they've been doing. And the party's like, well, okay, this seems pretty bad, but we can't do this right now. We have more important things to do, like getting into the country. But they make a mental note to come back here and investigate what's going on, because it was beginning to get bad. Like the town watch and the town guard. Two different things, by the way, that I think I've spoken about before. But the town watch and the town guard both have to try to just keep these zombies at bay as they keep popping up. But they get their things sorted, and they board their boat. And they head to the human capital, New Falkcrest. They had already been there once before, where they robbed a bank and assassinated somebody, but they had already been there before. Fortunately, nobody really remembered who they were, because it was the paperwork was okay. They were allowed to enter. Their first objective was to report to somebody in local power, like a mayor, or maybe like a duke, if they could find one, and speak to them about their finding, because they wanted to spread the word of Shield, because they had a vengeance against this dragon who had slain their friends and imprisoned them for a month, as well as just terrorizing them as they were shipwrecked on this island. So they report to New Falkcrest, by the way, is the military capital of it's, as well as being the political capital. it's also the military hub. So all the Navy operates out of there. The Army has a base there or a fort there. So they're actually able to speak to some important military officers because when they mention a dragon, the lower level guys let them by speak to whoever they need to. And so they go to some naval officer and they say, hey, we've just encountered a fucking dragon and we need to take it down. We need military resources. Please help us. People are dying every day because this shield folk just snatches them out of the water, enslaves them, kills them, enslaves them, and kills them. They enslave them and they kill them and they've taken their loot. It's affecting the economy. It's affecting just lives of sailors, and it could get a lot worse if Shield is able to realize that, can maybe heal her wing, and she realizes she can leave the island and go cause chaos elsewhere. So they talk to some certain people and just kind of mess around the fort. Oh yeah. The fort is called Fort Iron Mace, by the way, in case you were wondering. But yeah, they talk to people until they make it to. I've ranked the military. They made it to one of the higher up ranks, which is a rear admiral. There are 10 rear admirals, and they all report to the fleet admiral, who's in charge of the entire navy. It's like General of the Army, but for the navy, and they report to him, and they tell the story again of Shield and the chaos she is causing. And the Rear Admiral actually seems interested in this. And he wants to get this sorted so that Shield, it's a dragon. Keep this in mind, this is a dragon that people thought was a legend. And now there's eyewitness account of people who have no reason to lie that there is actually a threat. And that would explain the disappearance of merchant ships and naval ships around the island. And they're like, alright, come with us. And they go into a briefing, or like a big huge assembly of naval officers, and they're actually allowed to present their findings to the entire upper class of the Navy. And they have a meeting, and they decide that it will be best for the crew of the Queen's Gambit to return to the island, to find Shield, kill her, take her loot, free the prisoners, and just zone off Waki Island forever. Now, you can imagine the players, or the characters, both actually, being a bit skeptical about this because they literally just got their asses handed to them by Shield, and they don't really want to return again guns blazing because that could probably end bad for most parties involved. But nonetheless, they agree because they are offered a reward, and the reward is they get to keep all of the loot of Shield's, plus they'll be given a bonus reward if they can prove that Shield is killed in the mission. So they shake hands, and they set off into an airship. Now the Navy, unlike the dwarf country where airships are commonplace, the Navy has 2 dirigible aircraft. They have the quarterstaff and the Franklin. Those are their 2 airships that they use, and they aren't very good weapons. Like real world Zeppelins, like in World War I, they are not very good weapons. They're used mainly for scouting and for transportation of goods and troops. This is a real thing, by the way. Side note: in World War I, Zeppelins were not very often used for bombing or for an active combat zone because they were such poor weapons, because they were so inaccurate, and that once the British developed incendiary bullets, they could so easily be shot down. So they're usually used for overseas scouting or for transportation of troops. History. I'm a history nerd, so just bear with me. But back to the game. The crew, they board this airship, and they strap on parachutes. They aren't modern parachutes, with the handles. They're just parachutes that they're going to use to drop onto the island, Ghost Recon style. and make their way inland and kill the dragon. They're given supplies, they're given healing potions, they're given everything that they might need for a long planned campaign on this island. So the airship takes them from the Falkrest. It's a pretty brief flight on the quarterstaff to Waki Island, and they fly like a couple kilometers off the coast at a pretty high elevation, so they'll be able to drop in and skydive their way down to the island. Now, this all, of course, relies on a skill check to see if they can successfully maneuver themselves to the island without, falling in the sea and breaking your spine, or parachuting right into a kobold base, or being eaten by some creature that's even worse than S.H.I.E.L.D. that they haven't discovered yet. Waki Island is a terrible place, but nonetheless, they do a 3, 2, 1, and they jump like in a line, like skydivers. Like they just jump in a line and they keep going. I say, okay, everybody, roll acrobatics. And why did I choose acrobatics? It's because if you've ever skydived, which I haven't, disclaimer, I have never skydived, but if you skydive, it's less about your mindset and more about your physical ability to maneuver yourself, like to use like the airspeed to your advantage and the air resistance to your advantage to be able to fall on a steady pace so you can reach your target. And they jump and they're all skill checks, and some of them pass and some of them fail. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today, but I will be telling you this next week, or maybe the week after. But I will be sharing more on their adventure because we do wind up with the result as S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the final battle with S.H.I.E.L.D. Will it go good? Will it go bad? We'll find out next time on Tales from the Table. I just want to make a side note real fast. I have changed my my editing software. I used to use Windows Movie Maker, which is a piece of garbage for the most part. It doesn't have many features. Its only thing discovery is that it's super easy to use. I switched to another film editor called HitFilm Express that my friend Grant recommended to me. So this is going to be the first video edited with that. You can see, excuse me, you can see right there. I've overlaid an image. There's an image there. Check it out. I couldn't do that with Windows Movie Maker, so that's cool. And there are other things you can do with it too. Like I could do face cams, but I don't really do video game videos. But maybe one day. And it's just a cool software. I think you should check it out. It's totally free. It's a freeware. It's not a demo. It's a free software. But yeah, that's it. That's my update. That's my technical overhaul. But yeah, goodbye. I started school today, so good luck with the school year, I guess. If you're in Canada, not in America, where you already started. Goodbye.